Okay, good morning to all of you. Whether the slide is visible? Yes, anyone please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So up to last class we have discussed different black box testing techniques, white box testing techniques. After this we have already discussed this debugging, different debugging techniques. So today we'll discuss about validation testing, and we'll discuss first about unit validation testing. So for this, actually, I will give little bit introduction to unit testing. What is introduction to validation and verification versus validation. Then we will go to this unit validation testing. Okay. So a little bit fundamentals I want to reiterate. Like what are the different testing levels we know? Um, we know that there are four testing levels. Those are unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and then regression testing. These are the what four or software the software tested at four different levels. These fundamental definitions I had already given you earlier. What is unit testing? What is integration testing? System testing? Regression testing? Still, then we will quickly just refresh what we have taught earlier. Unit testing means here we have to test each module or each unit or each component independently so that we can know where the error lies in exactly in which module or which unit the error lies. This is mostly done by the developers of the module. So simultaneously who develops the code, so simultaneously he also performs unit testing. That's why you see in many of the books it is written as the page is coding and unit testing. Okay. Then comes integration and system testing. So here we have to test the system as a whole, and often it is done by the separate testing or QA team. So normally integration testing we combine, integrate the modules or the units or component which are already tested independently, then we combine them partially, we perform integration testing. Then when the system is full ready, we perform the system testing, the whole system is tested. And normally integration and system testing, they are performed by a separate testing team or a quality assurance team. Then about acceptance testing, you know that here validation of the system functions by the customer. The customer will finally test for what does he want and whether the developed software fully meets his requirements or not. So validation of system functions is performed by the customer. This is acceptance testing. And the regression testing, you know that when you are making some modifications, so whether that is affecting to the other, you may make the modification to one module or one unit, and you want to know that whether the modification affects the other parts of the system or not. So in order to ensure that, we perform this regression testing. So those definitions we have already discussed earlier, very fundamental definitions. Please have a look into this. So these different levels of testing can be mapped with the different phases of this life cycle model. So in the left hand side, I have different phases of the life cycle model. Like first we have to see the user's requirements or what the users really need. Then we prepare the requirements specification document, SRS document. Then we perform the design. Then we develop the code, and then we go for maintenance. So you see, every phase of the classical software development lifecycle is associated with the testing. You can see that if you see that the coding is, as I have already told you, whenever you develop a code, a module or a unit, you have to simultaneously perform unit testing. So coding is associated with unit testing. So this is known as unit testing. At the level of design, when you are designing for developing the DFD models or UML diagrams, you are developing, you are designing for every module. So at the design level, we have to, what you do, the different modules that we have designed, we have to integrate them and we have to perform testing. So design is associated with integration testing. And when we are preparing the SRS document, we have to see what the final product we are developing, whether all the requirements as mentioned in the SRS document, they have been implemented or not, they are met or not. So that's the requirements as mentioned in the SRS document, they have fully met or not. So we call it in order to ensure that we perform system testing. So requirements specification, it is associated with system testing. And finally, what the user has told earlier initially, whether he is getting the similar functionalities from your product or not. So the user has to carry out acceptance testing. Why the name is acceptance testing? Because based on this result, whether the system, the user will say a final decision to you whether he is going to accept your product or not. So what the users really need, so that is associated with the acceptance testing. So these two, that is the system testing and acceptance testing, they are performing the similar category. So we can name that system testing. Then once a system is ready, it may be in use for several years. You have to maintain it properly. Whenever you are making any change to the existing system, you have to ensure that you may make a change to one module or some parts of the system, but the whole system is the other parts are not affected. You need to ensure that during maintenance you have to perform regression testing. So maintenance is always associated with regression testing. This is how the different levels of this classical software development life cycle, it is associated with the different levels of testing. So today was about unit validation testing. So that's why I want to give little bit idea on the unit testing, and then we'll see little bit fundamentals of verification and validation. Then we'll go for unit validation testing. You have already known that unit testing is undertaken when? Unit testing is undertaken after a module has been coded and reviewed. So after you develop as a developer, after you develop a code and perform this review I have already told you as a static testing technique in the last class. So unit testing is undertaken after a module has been coded and reviewed. So this activity is typically undertaken by the coder of the module himself in the coding phase. This I have already told you. Unit testing is carried out not by another tester, rather it is carried out by the developer himself in the coding phase. So before carrying out unit testing, the unit test cases have to be designed. So after this coding, you design the unit test cases. Then you run your code or that module with these test cases, perform the unit testing. So before carrying out unit testing, the unit test cases have to be designed by the coder, and the test environment for the unit under test has to be developed. The environment, the testing environment has to be ready. So what do you mean by testing environment? Suppose module A is calling module B. There are two modules and you have coded only one module, module A. Module B is not ready. So then how module A will call module B, because module B it is not ready. Or module B is ready, but the calling module A is not ready. So how to do this? So we have to complete the environment, the test environment. That means both A and B has to be ready. So if either A or B are not ready out of these two modules, if one module is not ready, then what to do? That we will discuss now. So whenever the complete environment is not ready, in order to test a module, the subordinate modules are not ready, then we have to go for some dummy modules. We call them as drivers and stops. So in order to test a single module, we need a complete test environment. Why? To provide all the relevant code which are necessary for execution of the module. So if module A calls module B, C, in order to test module A, I have to also complete the modules B and C. Besides the module under test, the following are needed to test the module. So when module A is calling two modules, I want to test module A. So these two modules B and C also they have to be made ready so that the testing can be done. The procedures belonging to other modules that the module under test calls. So what I am saying here, besides the module under test, the following things need to be they have to be required. They have to be also completed. The following things are needed. Number one, the procedures belonging to other modules that the module under test calls. So the module that you are going to test, what other modules it calls, they are also necessary for testing that module. The non-local data structures that the module assesses. If your module A that you are going to test, it assesses some non-local data structures, they are also to be ready. A procedure to call the functions of the module under test with appropriate parameters. So if you are testing a module, you are going to test a module. So what procedure is required to call the functions of the module? That is the calling module. That has also to be ready. So procedure to call the functions of the module under test, it has to be ready with appropriate parameters. So in order to test a module, we have to require three things: the modules it may call, the module it may call the module under test, or the modules which will be called by the module under test, and the non-local data structure that the module under test it assesses. So these three things are also required. The modules required to provide the necessary environment are usually not available until they too have been unit tested. You are a fast programmer, so module A you have developed quickly. But module B and C, suppose they are developed by another developer, he is very slow. So you might have finished module A, so but module C, B and C are not completed because that programmer might have busy or he is slow. So modules required to provide the necessary environment which either call or they may be called or which are called by the module under test. They are usually not available until they too have been unit tested, which are performed maybe by the same programmer or by different programmers. So they may not be ready. In this context, two important dummy modules are designed. One is stop, another is driver. So these two dummy modules are designed to provide the complete environment. To create the complete environment, we have to develop two dummy modules, stops and drivers for a module, so that the testing can be carried out. The testing process will not wait. The role of stop and driver pictorially shown in the following picture. Let's see how the stops and drivers are developed. See, this is our module under test. And now suppose module under test is called by some other module, say A, and A module is not ready. So for that, what I have to develop? I have to develop a dummy module I will call as a driver. And the dummy module, it will create only some of the the principal activities, some of the important activities. Those can be coded here a little bit, not the fully what module. So from that we can call module under test. Similarly, module under test, suppose is calling module C and module C is not ready. For that we have to create a dummy module called as stop with some minimal behavior of that that module, and like this. And this module under test, it should what to communicate with the driver module through some global data. So the unit testing can be performed with the help of drivers and stop modules if the called modules and the calling modules are not ready. So then the module under test can be tested by using the dummy modules driver and stop and by passing some global data. Okay, so this is the relationship between the driver, stop and the module under test. So more on driver and stop along with some examples I will discuss after a few slides. So then I want to take up some fundamental again regarding validation. So let me relate with verification versus validation. Very often it is asked, how do you differentiate between verification and validation? So what do you mean by verification? Verification is the process of determining whether output of one phase of development conforms to its previous phase. Like you take design, so output of one phase of the development conforms to its previous phase. So what is the output of design? Output of design is DFD documents, DFD diagrams or the UML diagrams. What is its previous phase? Its previous phase is SRS. What is that requirement specification? What is the output of requirement specification? SRS document. So what verification says? Verification is the process of determining that the DFD that we have got out of this design process, it matches, it conforms to the output of the previous phase, that is the SRS document, which is the output of requirement analysis phase or requirement specification phase. So verification means it is the process of determining whether the output of one phase of the development, it conforms to the previous phase. But what do you mean by validation? Validation means it ensures that it is the process of determining whether a fully developed system conforms to its SRS document, what you have written in the SRS document. So when you develop your fully system, this fully developed system must conform to its SRS document. This is guaranteed by this validation process. So validation is the process of determining whether a fully developed system conforms to its SRS document or not. So that is, in other words, I can say that the module that has been prepared till now, it is in conformance with the requirements which are set initially in the SRS or the user's manual. So whatever requirements you have set in the SRS document, what module you have developed so far, it must conform to the requirements which are mentioned in the SRS document. So this process of determining whether a fully developed system conforms to its SRS document or not is called the validation process. Okay, so this verification, if you can see, it is concerned with the phase containment of errors. What is phase containment of errors? phase containment of errors means try to restrict the error to the same phase it is located in. Don't allow it to move into the next phase. It's there in Rajimol's book, you can see. That means if a specification is the error is there, try to detect it in the specification phase itself. Don't allow it to go to the design phase or the coding phase. If you will allow it to go to the next phase, you have to put more effort to correct it. So this is that's why verification is concerned with phase containment of errors, whereas the objective of validation is that the final product should be error free. What you have mentioned in the SRS document, exactly the same functionalities you are getting from your final product. So the verification is concerned with the phase containment of errors, whereas the objective of validation is that the final developed product must be error free. So what techniques are available for performing verification and validation? So review, simulation, unit testing, integration testing, normally these are used for verification, but system testing is used for validation, because in system testing we can see that what is the system is giving the functionalities and what is mentioned in the SRS document. That is validation that can be performed by using system testing. Okay, and what testing techniques we have seen so far? Black box testing, white box testing, normally they are coming under this unit testing, or particularly the white box testings that we have seen, they are coming under this unit testing techniques. So now let's go for more about this validation. Today we'll discuss about the unit validation testing. So how do you achieve software validation? Software validation is achieved by a series of black box test cases, isn't it? Because validation means we have to see match what your software, developed software is giving, what functionalities and what is mentioned in the SRS document. We do not require the code to be tested here. So that's why the software validation is achieved by a series of black box tests that demonstrate conformity to the requirements. What is mentioned in the SRS document, they must confirm, they must match with the functionalities given by the developed product. So software validation is achieved by a series of black box test cases. Since we do not require the testing of the code here, so white box testing techniques are not used here. So the validation technique, the validation process, the software validation is achieved by a series of black box test cases. Here both the test plan and the test procedure are designed to ensure that. So please remember, for testing we have to define two things: what is the testing algorithm or the testing procedure, and what is the test plan. For every testing, 4 levels of testing you have told. For every levels of testing, so we have to prepare a test plan. For unit testing, we have to prepare unit test plan. For integration testing, integration test plan. For system testing, system test plan. For acceptance testing, acceptance test plan. And for regression testing, regression test plan. So both the test plan and the test procedure, they are designed to ensure what? They are designed to ensure that the functional requirements as mentioned in the SRS document, they are satisfied. The behavior characteristics, they are what are expected, the expected behavioral characteristics are achieved, and the performance requirements are also attained, like what should be throughput, what should be the speed, etc. So all the performance requirements are attained by your software. So the test plan and the test procedure, they are designed to ensure the following. That means functional requirements are satisfied, behavioral characteristics are achieved, and the performance requirements are attained. Then you will see that verification and validation activities, very popularly it is known as V&V activities. You must know this thing. So in the left hand side, I have shown almost the phases of this software development. Like first we do this requirement gathering, then this requirement specification or the determining the objectives, then the high level design, then the low level design, then the coding. You can see that this coding and the low level design, they are associated with the unit validation testing, isn't it? So low level design and coding, they are associated with unit validation testing, because in order to test the low level design and the code, we have to perform this unit validation testing. This can be done by developing or building unit test plan. Similarly, this high level design or functional design, it can be tested by performing function testing and integration testing, and by developing the build function and the integration test plan. Similarly, the SRS document, it can be tested. This requirement specification can be tested by performing system testing through developing or building a system test plan. And similarly, what the users want, the requirements gathering or what the users want, they can be so what the users want, that can be tested by performing acceptance testing through developing or building acceptance test plan. So based on this, the user will say finally whether he wants to accept the system or reject it. That's why the name is acceptance testing. And then this system will be installed in the computer in the at the user side, and then we have to perform this installation testing. Okay, so you can say that verification, I have already told you that the output of one page must match, must conform to the output of the previous page. So in the coding, I must see that the output of this low level design must match to the output of this high level design. So in this way, similarly, you can perform the verification what process. So this is something about the verification and validation activities. Okay, very important. You must remember this. Then we'll start with the today's class. What I have told, we'll discuss about this unit validation testing, which is required to test which is performed at this coding and this low level design phase. Let's quickly look at unit validation testing. You know that what is the smallest building block of a software? The units or the modules. So since the unit is the module is the smallest building block of the software system, it is the first piece of system to be validated. So first we have to perform what? First we have to test. First we have to validate the units or the modules of the system. Before we validate the entire software, isn't it? Before we validate, before we test the entire software, the various units or modules, they must be tested or validated. Unit testing is normally considered an adjunct to the coding step. I have already told you, unit testing is not performed separately. Along with this coding step, unit testing is also performed simultaneously. So unit testing is performed simultaneously along with the coding. The units must also be validated to ensure that every unit of software has been built in the right manner in conformance with user requirements. What are the user requirements? So this unit or the module that you are developing, that is in that direction, they are perfectly matching. So the units must also be validated to ensure that every unit of software has been built or developed in the right manner, in the proper way, in conformance with the user requirements as mentioned in the SRS document. Okay. Unit test, what do they ensure? Unit test ensure that the software meets at least a baseline level of functionality prior to integration and system testing. So before moving to integration and system testing, it satisfies, the unit must satisfy the base level functionality. So as many errors we should remove during unit testing before moving to integration and system testing. So unit test ensure that the software meets at least a base level functionality prior to the process of integration and system testing. While developing the software, if the developer detects and removes the bug, time and cost, you can save your time. Though if those errors can be performed, can be detected during unit testing, they will not be allowed to move to the next level of integration system testing. And hence, please think of if an error has passed the unit testing and moved to the next phase, and you are trying to detect in the integration system testing how much time, how much effort you have to put. So the time and cost will be significantly increased. So that's why I try to detect and remove the bug during this coding phase, during the unit testing phase, so that you can save significant amount of time and cost. This type of testing is largely based on black box testing techniques. I have already told you, unit validation testing is normally performed by using several black box testing techniques, because you want to know what is the objective, what is our requirement, and what the software is giving. So without going to test the software directly from the requirements, we can perform this type of unit validation testing. So this can be done, this can be performed by using the black box testing techniques. So now, as I have already told you, for unit validation testing, we require two things. What this stub and driver. So first, let's see what is a module. Then we'll go to the stub and driver. So normally, a software is divided into several modules, but a module is not an isolated entity. A module may not run independently. the module under test or the module under consideration might be getting some inputs from another module, or the module is calling some other module, isn't it? A module that you are going to test, it might be called from some other module, or it may call some other modules. It means that a module is not independent, be tested in isolation. Particularly, you will say take object-oriented. So there you have to, it will consist of several modules, where one module will call several other modules, or one module can be called by several other modules. So while testing the module, all its interfaces must be simulated if the interfaced modules are not ready. So if the interfaced modules are not ready, then somehow you have to simulate the interfaces. Okay. So while testing the module which is under consideration, all its interfaces must be simulated if the interfaced modules are not ready at the time of testing the module under consideration. So if these interfaced modules are not ready, what we have to do? Somehow we have to simulate them so that the testing process can be completed. So for this, if the modules are not ready, I have told we have to go for two dummy modules, either the drivers or the stops. Drivers are required for the calling modules, and stops are required for the called modules. So software test drivers are some dummy programs which simulate the behavior of the software components of the modules that are the control modules of a module control modules of a module under the test module. So which we are testing a module. Suppose we are going to test module A, and that is called from another module, say B, and if B is not ready, that is the from where A is called, then we have to develop a dummy module for the module B that we call as a driver. So software test drivers are programs which simulate the behaviors of software components and modules that are the control modules of a module under test. So what does it do? It controls the test cases. So drivers, they control the test cases. A driver module should contain the non-local data structures assessed by the module under test. Okay, a driver module, it should contain the non-local data structures which are assessed by the module under test. Additionally, it should also have the code to call the different functions of the unit under test with the appropriate parameter values for testing, because I am saying that B is calling A and B is not ready. So that driver module for B, it should contain the non-local data structures which will be assessed by the module under test, that is the module A here. Additionally, the driver for module B should also contain the code to call the different functions of the unit under test with the appropriate parameter values for testing. The driver module may print or interpret the results produced by the module under testing. So the driver module may contain some print statements, or it may interpret the result. So let's quickly take a small example. So please see the design hierarchy of the modules shown in figure A. So module A is calling module B and C, module B is calling module D and E, and module C calls module A. So suppose that module B is under test. In the hierarchy, module A is superordinate of module B, isn't it? A is calling what B, and now we are going to test module A. So I can say that module A is superordinate to module B, whereas module D and E are subordinate to module B. So here B is under test, and we say that module A is superordinate of module B, and suppose module A is not ready and B has to be unit tested. So what we have to do now, module A is not ready. So module B has to be tested, and module A is not ready. So what has to be done? As I have already told you, since module A is not ready, we can develop a driver module for module A. Okay, that's why what I have to do here, a driver module is needed which will simulate, because module A is not ready. So I have to create a driver module for module A which will simulate module A, which will simulate the behavior of module A, in the sense that it will pass the required inputs to module B, because module B requires some parameters which will be called from module A. So this will be performed by module A. So we have to simulate the behavior of module A in the sense that what does it will do? It will pass the required inputs to module B, and it will act as the main program for module B, because module B is called from module A. So now this driver for module A, it will act as the main program for module B, and it will pass the required parameters to module B. Okay, so since module A is not ready till now. So a driver module is needed, which will simulate the behavior of module A in the sense that this it means this module A, it passes the required inputs, the required parameters to module B, and this acts as the main program for module B. Okay, in this way you can create a driver module for A. So test driver, it supports the code and data used to provide an environment for testing a part of a system in isolation. In fact, it drives the unit being tested by creating necessary inputs required for the input for the unit and then invokes the unit, isn't it? Because B requires some input. Where I will get? A is not ready. So that's why A will act, it will provide the environment by passing the parameters to B so that B can be tested independently. In fact, it drives the unit being tested. How? By creating the necessary inputs, by creating the necessary environment, by creating necessary inputs required for the unit, and then it invokes that particular unit. Okay, it invokes the unit. A test driver may take inputs in the following form and call the unit to be tested. So let's see, the driver can take the inputs in what forms and how it can call the unit. Okay, a test driver may call inputs in the following form and call the unit to be tested. First, it may take the input in the following form. It may hardcode the inputs as parameters of the calling unit. You can directly hardcode. It may hardcode the inputs as parameters of the calling unit. It may take the inputs from the user. Otherwise, it may take the inputs from the user. Otherwise, it may read the inputs from a file. It can also read the inputs from a file. So in these ways, a driver may take the inputs in these following forms, and then it can call the unit to be tested. A test driver provides the following facilities to a unit to be tested. So what facility the test driver provides? It initializes the environment desired for testing. So what environment is required? It creates. It initializes the environment desired for testing. It also provides simulated inputs in the required format to the units to be tested. So these drivers, they provide the simulated inputs in the desired format, in the required format to the units that have to be tested. The projects where commercial drivers are not available, specialized drivers need to develop. So some of the commercial drivers are already available. So the projects where the commercial drivers are not available, the specialized drivers, they have to be developed. They need to be developed by the developer team or the testing team, by the development team or the testing team. So this happens mainly in defense projects where projects are developed for a special application. So wherever you are developing the projects for a special application like defense projects, there these commercial drivers may not be available. So in that case, you have to develop specialized drivers. So what I have told drivers, in the same way you can understand this stuff. Drivers are used for the calling modules. These are the dummy modules, but stops will be used for the called modules. So the module under testing may also call some other modules which is not ready at the time of testing. If module A is calling module B, suppose module A is ready and module B is not ready. So in that case, what to do? In that case, we have to develop a dummy module called a stop for this called module. Therefore, these called modules, okay, therefore these modules need to be simulated for testing. So these called modules need to be simulated for testing. In most cases, the dummy modules instead of the actual modules which are not ready are prepared for these subordinate modules. So I have already told you, for supernet modules, we will prepare the drivers. For subordinate modules, we have to develop the stops. So in most of the cases, the dummy modules, we have to use dummy modules, or the dummy modules are created, they are used instead of actual modules which are not ready. These are developed, these are prepared for these subordinate modules. These dummy modules are called stops. So what is a stop? A stop is a dummy procedure. Okay, just like driver, a stop is a dummy procedure. A stop is a dummy procedure that has the same input-output parameters as the function called by the unit under test. Okay, so the stop is a dummy procedure which has the same IO parameters as the function or as the module or as the procedure which is called by the unit under test, but has a highly simplified behavior. But it may have a simplified behavior. For example, a stop procedure may produce the expected behavior using a simple table lookup mechanism. You want to suppose sort something. So for example, a stop procedure may produce the expected behavior, the desired behavior, using just following or using using a simple table lookup mechanism or table lookup procedure. You just use a simple table lookup mechanism to sort something, and that can be simulated. That can use. So the module that or the procedure that you are developing, which you or the procedure that you are developing by using a simple table lookup procedure, a simple table lookup mechanism, that can be used as a stop procedure for the what called module, which is not. Thus, a stop can be defined as what? It can be defined as a piece of software that works similar to a unit which is referenced by the unit being tested, but it is much simpler than the actual unit. We can say that a stop works as a stand-in. A stop works as a stand-in, or we only told you the dummy module. A stop works as a stand-in for the subordinate unit or for the subordinate module, and it provides the minimum required behavior for that unit, so that the module which is going to be tested, it can be tested easily by calling this dummy module, that is the stop module, because that call module is not ready. For example, let us consider the previous figure again, and module B under test needs to call module D and E, but they are not ready. Here like this, module A is calling B, so B we are going to test, but since B calls D and E, and D and E are not ready, so what we have to do? We have to create stops. We have to create dummy modules known as stops for module D and E. Skeletal structure in their place, some dummy code must be there in that place, so that they act as dummy modules in place of the actual modules. So now we have seen that D and E are not ready, so there must be some skeletal structure in their place, so that they act as dummy modules in place of the actual modules. Therefore, stops are designed for module D and E as shown in figure 3. So we have to create we have to create stops for modules D and E. Similarly, if module C we are going to test and module F is not ready, we have to create a stop for module F, which is a dummy module. Okay, so for now we are going to test module B, and module D and E are not ready, so we have to create stop modules for D and E. Stops also, like these drivers, stops also have stops. They also have some special characteristics. First one is stop is a placeholder for the actual module to be called. We have already discussed. Therefore, it is not designed with the functionalities, the actual functionalities performed by the actual module. So it is just a placeholder, dummy. It's a dummy module. So all the actual functionalities, they are not performed here. It is a reduced implementation of the actual module. It is a simplified version. It is a reduced implementation of the actual module. It does not perform any action of its own and returns to the calling unit. Okay, so the stop module, it does not perform any action of its own and returns to the calling unit, which is being tested. We may include just a display instruction or a printf function we can use. We can include just a display instruction or printf statement as a trace message in the body of stop. The idea of developing the stop is that the module to be called is working fine by accepting the input parameters. That is the objective only. The objective is that the module to be called, it is working fine by accepting the input parameters from the called module. A constant or null must be returned from the body of stop to the calling module. So whenever you are developing a stop, a constant or null value must be returned from the body of stop to the calling module. Stop may simulate exceptions or abnormal conditions if required. So if it is required, the stop may simulate some exceptions or abnormal conditions. These are the benefits of designing stops and drivers. Very easy. You please read yourself. I will. We are running out of time. These are easy things. Please read yourself. What are the advantages of designing stops and drivers? Some of the advantages I have already told you. Other advantages you please read from here or from the book or from internet sources. Will not develop those things. Now, finally, I will conclude by taking a small example so that it will clarify your doubts. So there is a simple example I have taken where there is a main function and it calls, see how many functions? It calls call sum, call different, call multiplication. So this is a main function. It calculates what? It calls one function call sum to add the values of ABC. It wants another, calls another function call difference, which will find out the difference of ABC, and call mul, which will find out the values of ABC, the multiplication of the ABC, and finally it will print. I have given only one function call sum, which requires 3 input variables and finds out the sum x, y, z. D is equal to x plus y plus z and return value d. Now the question is, suppose the main module is not ready for the testing of the call sum module. Please see. This main module calls call sum, and the call sum is a small unit, so the developer has already finished. But the developer has not finished this main function. So what we have to do? We have to develop a driver for main. So the question is design a driver module for main. Similarly, other question is modules call diff and call nuff are not ready when called in the main. Design stop for these two modules. You see, only I have designed call sum, but call diff and call mul. So these two are not so far they have not defined. But how are these two modules call diff and call mul? So first I have to design this driver module. In the driver module, what is the question? Test or design a driver module for main. For testing which one? For testing call sum, because call sum is called from here and call sum suppose, and the call sum is already developed, but module, this main module is not developed. So now objective is only to test call sum. So these two lines I can skip. Difference and mul I can skip. So what will be the what will be now the driver? The driver will be just main, then integer ABC and the declaration, scanf the 3 values ABC, and sum is equal to call sum ABC and printf some value. So now you see I have suppressed here. I have not written this difference and multiplication because I want to test only this function sum, call sum. So that's why this will be the driver for the main function. So what will this? So main, then the declaration part, then scanf for the input part, then this calling part sum is equal to call sum ABC and one printf statement. So since I want to test only call sum, I have skipped these two other statements about diff and difference and mul. Okay, this is how you can develop the part driver. Now let's go to the second part. We have to develop the stop for call diff and call mul. See, this calculator sum already being designed. I want to test this main module, but main module calls two other sum modules or 3 modules, call sum, call diff and call mul, but call sum is already defined. Call difference and call multiplication, this is calculate multiplication, they are not ready so far. So I have to create 2 stops for this call diff and call mul. So how they will look like? So stop for call diff module, it will be like this. The function name call diff integer xyz, and as I have already told you, in this stop we'll only take what the simplified behavior might be a printf statement just to see it is working or not. So printf only difference calculating module, and a value has to be returned, maybe return 0. So the actual algorithm may not be required, only we will simulate the behavior of the called module. Similar for call mul module, what we will do? Again, name of the function and some printf statement, multiplication calculation module, and print 0. So in this way, as I have already told you, in the stop, we do not require the actual logic, only a simplified version of this behavior, or the simplified version of the logic can be there. You can just put a display statement or printf statement to see how this because how this calling module is working. Our objective is test to this main module, not this what called modules. So we can put dummy modules or what stops. We can put some dummy modules with what only the behavior is represented, not the actual processing is represented. So here we can develop this stop by putting a small code, a dummy code, which simulates the behavior of the called module. So this is how you can develop a stop for call diff. Similarly, this is how you can develop the stop for call mul, just by writing the function name, the name of the call function with some display statement or printf statement, and then some return value. So in this way, you can prepare the dummy module stops for call diff and call mul modules. Okay. In the examination, one question might be asked, and you may be asked, develop the drivers and stops for these modules. Please try to practice those things. So today we have discussed the different levels of testing, like unit testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance testing, and regression testing. We have explained the difference between verification and validation. We have presented the verification and validation activities. We have discussed briefly the unit validation testing. Also, we have explained the concept of drivers and stops, their advantages and disadvantages. We have also explained the concept of drivers and stops with taking an example. We have done it from this Rajimal's book chapter 10 and Naresh Chauhan book chapter 7. So please read yourself. This is something about unit validation testing. Thank you very much. Now let us take up the questions. Any doubt, please? These are a little bit theoretical things. So if there is any doubt, please ask. I hope this is an easy chapter, so doubt should not appear. So if any doubts, please ask. Okay, so I think it is clear, no questions are coming up. So if there are no doubts, we can stop here then. Those who are having classes, they may leave immediately. I will take attendance maybe from the system later on. Thank you very much.